welcome in to another episode of Cheese Focus Live. We had a whole show planned, the whole show worked out, and then Rashee Rice had to go do some more stuff. So we're really going to talk wide receiver room again and what the alleged allegations are against Rashee Rice. As you can see, we've got a mixed crew today, not our normal Tuesday show. So my name is Quentin Morse. We got Thiz running the show in the background. And now two guys who are ready to race their way into the season and allegedly punch their way to another championship. It's the Professor Caleb and Philip, who is just filling in for JP. Haven't seen you on the show in a while, Philip. So how are you guys doing this lovely Tuesday evening?
Man, I'm good to be here, man, and to fill in for JP on this special occasion episode. And man, I was just writing my rosters and drawing my comparison of these rookies that are coming in and looking at how everything's going to go, just in case of Rashee's situation before this alleged situation, allegedly, we'll say out there. Just to get that news, it's like, come on, man, like this is just ridiculous, man. We can't keep dealing with these headaches. But other than that, though, hopefully it's not what it really seems, and hopefully they can work through this. And what's important is him getting the help that he really deserves. That's what's important, is because he's too young to waste his career away. So that's all I can say about that. But I'm really doing good. So I thought I'd join in and fill in for JP tonight, because normally I would do my show War Room with P-Mac, presented by Chiefs Focus. But I won't be doing the show tomorrow because I'll be going on the road on Thursday morning, driving with my good friend and fellow self-advocate with the Self-Advocate Coalition in Kansas and the Kansas University on Center Developmental Disabilities, Brad Lindenkamp. We're traveling to Denver, Colorado, because his nephew will be graduating from the University of Colorado in Boulder. So it's an extra 20 miles. So about a 7.5, 8-hour drive. And I've driven to Pittsburgh and Washington, D.C. with Brad. So this is a great occasion. So I'm glad to be here and talk with you about these receivers and all this craziness that's happened today. So what's up, Will? How you doing, Caleb?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Glad to be with you guys. Ready for an eventful show.
Yeah. God. All right, let's just get into it. So I don't even know. There's not even a good transition. So this is pretty new news. Sorrow came out a couple hours ago. So let's just get through it. This is from ESPN, the article, but it every news, anybody that does sports news now is covering it, so you can go find it anywhere. Originally, it was the Dallas Morning News that broke the news, where allegedly over the weekend or earlier in the week, Rashee Rice allegedly punched somebody. Man was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injury, including swelling to one side of the face. Police said that no charges related to the alleged assault have been filed as of Tuesday afternoon, according to the Morning News. Rashee Rice has no comment. The Chiefs do not have a comment. So we are very much in a developing story. But, when you already are in significant legal trouble, dealing with significant, serious, I don't even know, we can't even call them allegations anymore because he literally admitted to the highway incident. When you're already dealing with that, you really need to make sure that you're being a perfect citizen, that you can't continue to get yourself in trouble, because it's only going to make both sides of your situation worse, right? It's not like, you're not going to get a sort of benefit of the doubt in the legal eye, when you're continuing to get yourself in trouble. So, and then on the other side, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt in the NFL world in terms of a suspension when you're continuing to get in trouble, right? This is the worst time to be doing it. Obviously, here you go. How about this? We can just keep our hands to ourselves because we're all grown adults, and that's just what adults do in a functioning society. But apparently we can't do that. You could at very least do that when you're already in significant trouble to begin with.
Yeah, very much so. And this is the thing that we all got to remember too, Quentin, and also Caleb. Like, remember what Clark Hunt just said almost about a week ago on April 27th, which was probably on the same day 3 of the NFL draft. So he said, I'm very disappointed in the situation with Rashee and how it unfolded. It's an active legal case, so he will not further comment, but at the same time, he's still a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, and we will evaluate and move going forward. Now with this situation, it's just me, in my opinion, it's not a good look, man. Do you remember Alden Smith, 2014? He was suspended for 9 games for violating the NFL's policies. Upon
Mm-hmm.
being reinstated in week 11 that same year, he was arrested for his third DUI, then released by the 49ers, and then he would later sign with the Raiders in 2015. But he, because of that third DUI, he had to serve that 1 year suspension, and it was hard for him to come back from that. And then you have Josh Gordon, the same similar situation,
Mm-hmm.
2014, same year of Alden Smith's situation. Was arrested for driving while impaired and violating the NFL substance abuse policy. He was suspended for a year, but later reduced it for 10 games, right? In 2015, he was suspended for the entire season due to violating the same policy again. You know, just a year after he made the Pro Bowl and All Pro team for what he did with the Browns. And, you know, it's one of these things where the NFL is going to look back at that and they're going to say, like, you know, let's not rush into anything, but at the same time, they're going to try to make an example out of him. But let's just see when all the facts come out before we speculate. But just when I see this news, it's like, come on, man, not again. But I don't want to give my 2 cents. So when I made 2 tweets out there earlier saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
which I know you guys are going to go into later in the show, it's just that I'm just giving those scenarios just in case. I'm not saying that just to say, like, oh, it's going to happen. It's just it's a scenario you just got keep in place because we've been through this situation before. Tyreek, Kareem, and it's one of those things that people on the outside of Chiefs Kingdom they're going to keep using that against us. So that's just my thoughts about that situation. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Philip. I mean, this is a situation. It's not a good look, and unfortunately, due process to come out. I mean, there's things on Twitter, people saying that know him were saying things like he wasn't even there apparently, and all this stuff. And at this point, I mean, unfortunately, the moment someone gets into some trouble, they're always going to find themselves. What we're going to see is the process things are going to come out. Now, will he get suspended this year? I do not know. Again, the NFL is very, very slow. Like Ezekiel Elliott's situation, things very, very slow. Many players are very, very slow. So this may be a thing where he plays for a season and he gets suspended next season. Again, unfortunately, the way things work out in the NFL, things take time. So I don't know. Like, you have to do the right thing in situation. Apparently, he's gotten himself some situations, some trouble where it's not been good. So what's going to have to be done is he's probably just going to have to be doing things to himself, keeping himself, things like that. Because apparently, once you have a target on your back, people are going to do things just to go after you. And that's a common theme with a lot of NFL players. You see it just with celebrities in general. People start trying to bother them, find them, and things like that. And they got to defend themselves. So next thing you know, they're on TMZ. And they go through the whole spectacle of what they did. And it turns out actually they were defending themselves. So what we're seeing, I mean, I hope they can get it figured out. But it's not looking good for Rashee. It's not looking good at all.
nope.
Yeah, and once you start to get in trouble like that sticks with you your whole career, right? Where if you get in trouble when you're a young player, if you get in trouble again later in your career, there's no there's no hesitation to give you a suspension, and your suspension is going to be even longer. So speaking of of the suspension, let's bring this back to the football part of it, because well, that's what we do here is we talk sports, we talk Chiefs. How long do you think? Because I thought the reports coming out now were before this incident. They were expecting an 8 to 10 game suspension just on the street racing highway, whatever. Now, if this turns out to be true, shouldn't we expect it to be a combined suspension where not only did you hurt people and get into, I believe, an 8 car crash through while street racing on the highway, but
Mm-hmm.
now you punch somebody in a Dallas club. Like,
He needs to get out of Dallas, it sounds like.
he
He needs to get to Kansas City and just stay here.
you're putting that those two situations together in such a short time where those two things have to add up to a longer suspension. So what are we looking at now? Are we definitely getting the 10 game? Are we going to move up to more of a 12 game? Like, is that the direction that Rashee Rice is heading?
I think
I
he's
have a
gonna
feeling it may be two.
sorry about that.
Sorry. Okay. I have a feeling it may be two separate situations to where we're going to see one suspension for one thing, and once that court case closes out, and then the next one happens, we're gonna have another suspension. I don't think you're going to two combine because these are two separate cases.
I agree with you there, Caleb. And I think that goes back to the point about let's say Josh Gordon. Because Josh Gordon, for example, he was first suspended for a year, but then reduced to 10 games. But now because he violated the thing again, he got the entire season. So I see the same thing, but in a way like this. Let's say he gets the 10-game suspension and he tries to reduce it like the 6 or 8 games. But I think that's still going based off the legal process going into the next year, because you never know. He could be actually charged. You never know how these things work out. Let's just pray that he has a really good lawyer to work things out. You know, that's what we're just hoping for in this process, especially everybody gets compensated as a result of this. But it's just not a good look, especially when you're going out to a nightclub where you're already, like you said, target on your back. And it's not good, man. It's like you already got Mahomes on you. Where I saw that Super Bowl when they were arguing on the sidelines, there was something about that that just said, like, pay attention to that. And then also, I was in Dallas just around late February when my brother got married. Um, and it was that same US 75. And I remember just saying to myself, okay, well, why is this going to be important to me? And then 2, 3 weeks later, the Rashee Rice incident, same freeway. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, let me call my brother to see if he's okay. Because it's like he could have been part of that wreckage down there. Because they get wild down there, man. I mean, I remember driving past Lyndon B. Johnson Boulevard going through that city, and there was a man argument with his ex-wife, and she drove off angry, and he jumped on the hood of her car, and she sped off 90 miles per hour driving down that freeway. And I said, wow, they get wild down here in Texas. And, you know, like you said, he needs to stay here in Kansas City. Just like I've been seeing a lot of podcasts, a lot of people on Twitter say, lock him up at Arrowhead and throw away the key and something like that. But yeah, we shall see how this process goes.
I just think that this is this is just a situation to where, you know, with it happening within what, 2 months, 3 months of each other,
Mhm.
let's just call it what it's stupid. You know, you're being stupid. And no, the Chiefs are not cutting Rashee Rice. You know, nothing like that is going to happen. But there's a chance that Kansas City misses out on Rashee Rice for a significant amount of time.
Yep.
And it's more than likely Kansas City is going to miss out on Rashee Rice for around half the year, maybe more. And Kansas City, you know, the draft is over. So, you know, you can't prepare that way. So what is Kansas City going to do? Well, unfortunately for Kansas City, Tyler Boyd was just signed by the Tennessee Titans. So that really limits what Kansas City is going to have left if they're going the free agent market to try and find somebody to be a stopgap guy
That's
in
true.
order to hold the fort down until Kansas City can get going. Because part of the problem here is that you can't just expect Xavier Worthy to take over right that role. You can't expect him to come in and be that guy like Rice was last year. I think Rice's rookie season was an anomaly. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from the comment section because last year around this time I was talking about Kansas City would be lucky to get 500-ish yards from Rashee Rice.
You did say that.
And I stand by that take. I'm not backing down from it. I think because you know the wide receiver room was just so bad, it gave opportunities for Rice that he was able to, you know, take on a move and accept the responsibility. But Kansas City's wide receiver room is better than it was last year, right? I mean, I think we can all agree with that. And I also think that this is a different Worthy to me is almost exactly the same player as Hollywood Brown is. So Xavier Worthy pick to me is not necessarily a pick for this year. To me, the Xavier Worthy pick is a pick for next year because Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown is only on a 1-year deal. So I don't think it's fair for us to just say, well, next man up. It's all on you, Worthy. You know, I know that you're a rookie guy and you have not a limited skill set, but you have, you know, one clear role in this offense. Let's give you this role where you're going to play a lot out of the slot, even though you didn't do that a ton in college. You know, let's throw an NFL playbook at you and let's see what you can do. I think if you do that, then you're preparing him to fail. You're setting him up for failure. and Kansas City needs to go a different route in terms of it. So the next question is, what does Kansas City do? Do they go out and trade for a number 3 or number 4 receiver? Do they go out and sign a free agent? I have a couple of guys here that Kansas City might look at going out and signing, but what does Kansas City do? And I will push that on to you guys. What do you think they should do? Should they go out and trade for somebody? Should they wait it out and see what happens? Should they go and sign a veteran guy? Because I do think that a move might be coming.
I agree. I think they may, depending on the situation. And again, we don't know if suspension's going to happen this year, but a move, they're probably going to have to make some sort of trade. Now, I don't know who they may have to make a trade, or they may need to sign a free agent. A guy, you can put in there, maybe like a Michael Thomas, who could have a resurgence to career, a 1-year deal that can help you kind of get through things. But the also other issue is this. We don't know when the suspension will come down. It could be this year. It could be next year. It could be the year after that, because how court and things go. So unfortunately, I think they're probably just going to have to sign someone, see how it goes this year, and sign someone next year. You never know. Maybe Hollywood Brown may like it and want to be here another year or two. Well, you never know. Maybe they bring Michael Thomas. He's like, I like it. I want to be in here. Maybe they get lucky like that. Or they can find an undrafted free agent or someone on another roster that gets cut. But ultimately, they're going to have to add something to help bolster this group, because if he's not going to play for a while, that's just going to hurt the team. And he was a vital part. If you go looking back at those Chief highlights, every single week he went up and up and up in production. And having him with all these other guys, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, all these other individuals we have on those offense is just going to make things better as a whole. So him being lost, you have to have a veteran guy to help set in the offense. You have to. You can't be cheap, because there's an opportunity to go back to back to back. And if it doesn't work, it's not going to be good if they can't do that.
Philip, before you answer my question, I just want to talk about what Caleb said right there. I think there's a couple of really good points that you made. One of what you said that I completely agree with is that we aren't exactly sure when this is going to come down. It's a great point, and it's a point we've brought up a few times, but I do want to emphasize it, that there's a chance that this court date for either one does not conclude by the time the start of the season begins. So there's a chance that, because the NFL has sort of taken this process, that part of their process is, we wait for the legal field to do their thing before we make a move. Because of that, especially in non-domestic violence situations, the NFL does play, they really do take a default to, we can't do anything because, we don't have all the information yet. Mm-hmm. And with such a case like this, I do think that there's a chance, let's say the case doesn't come down until December, right? We'll see, then we'll see what happens. The legal world does not work around the NFL schedule. So
normally,
it's a very good point, Caleb.
And normally what's going to happen is they say, okay, at this court case, how do you rule? Guilty, not guilty, whatever. And then they have to do another 2 months later. So there's a very good chance he's going to be playing this season. He's going to be playing this season in one way, form, or another. Next year is where we're like, okay, when is this going to drop? Unless NFLP decides to jump in and do something early. But what we've seen them do is I don't think they're going to go that route.
Yeah. I really think that it might be like the same situation like the two guys I mentioned, Alden Smith and Josh Gordon, where both of those guys were – it was actually Alden Smith, and excuse me, I made a mistake. I thought it was Josh Gordon. It was Alden Smith. Week 10, when he played with the Raiders in 2015, he played his last game in Week 10 because they said you need to take care of your suspension, and then the next year you serve your suspension. So he didn't play in 2016 nor 2017. So that's a situation that I can see similarly playing out for Rice, but I think he could get I think that's like, from what this situation looks like to me, this is like, okay, you had a chance to like clear yourself and try to like handle your suspension. And Brett Beach kind of worded in his press conference like she needs to own up to his mistakes, and whatever they throw at you, deal with it, come back and help us win this Super Bowl. But now once you just do this situation again, it's like, okay, like let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if it comes out true that you did this could be like that indefinite suspension. You're still on the roster, but you're going to have to get reinstated based off of your good behavior because you need counseling. So that's just something that I'm just looking at for now. But let's see all the facts come out and see, like with Brett Beach and Clark Hunt
Mhm.
would say about this because I know Clark Hunt. That's what I thought about today after what Clark Hunt recently said on day 3 of the draft about his disappointment. Now he's really like, I'm really now disappointed. It almost sounds like that angry dad, like,
But
I'm so disappointed in you, son. Like that's just what it sounds like to me.
mhm. Do they say who he pushed? Was this a fan? Was this a
No, I think I heard
So,
it was a photographer, but
okay?
that
Mhm.
I can't confirm that or not.
And
Quite frankly, it doesn't matter.
it
Um,
doesn't. It doesn't. I'm just wondering again if there's TMZ videos will come out, or we'll find out something where things were lines were crossed on both sides. But again, we do
well,
not know.
yeah, this
I
is
just
like
wouldn't be surprised if a lot more stuff comes out about what happened and what took place.
yeah,
Because
and I'm sure that if it's
Mhm.
inside of a club, I'm sure there's going to be video that comes out at
Mhm.
some point. Like this is still
Exactly.
very much a developing story.
Mhm.
It's still relatively new. We usually don't get to like break news on this show,
No,
just
we
because it
don't.
happens so late. But this
Right
is
after
still
we get off
yeah, that's a
every
good
time.
point. Usually it does. Especially on the Friday nights, is when Brett Veach likes to, sign players.
Hmm.
No, but this is still a developing story. So on Thursday's show, hopefully we'll have more information about what happened, and maybe we'll get some more details. So, we can continue to inform you guys then. But let's move into what Kansas City could do. Let's say hypothetically, they do think that they need to go out and sign somebody to a veteran minimum deal. They are worried about our their wide receiver room. So let's talk about different guys that are available. You brought up Michael Thomas, Caleb, you brought up Michael Thomas. I'm going to run through just a couple of names that are available still. And then let me tell you guys if it's any one of these really stands out and whether Kansas City should go after them. So at the top of the list, at least for me, is Hunter Renfro. He's still
Hmm.
available. Then we've got Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Russell Gage, MVS, which I know everybody is pretty hyped for, Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, McCole Hardman.
Hmm.
So those are the top 9 guys that are available. I could put Jakeem Grant in there just to make it a solid top 10 list of the guys that are available according to Spot Track. So
Hmm.
any of those names stick out to you? Do you think that there's any chance that any of those guys end back up
I
here in
like
Kansas
Allen
City?
Robinson. That's one I think the Chiefs been trying to trade for, but just due to trading concerns and all the different things with draft capital, they weren't able to get him. He went to the Steelers. The room was kind of crowded. He didn't do much there. I think with the Chiefs, they could be able to open up his potential. I can see him becoming a threat with the Chiefs. That's one name that stands out to me.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe the Chiefs do need a big possession receiver. Of course, there's the Michael Thomas. There's also Allen Robinson, as you mentioned. But I would rather go with the Michael Thomas. But then there's one person that really stuck out to me, as you mentioned the first name earlier, Quentin, which is Hunter Winfro. And this is why. Because let's say Rashee Rice does go out of here, for example,
Hmm.
for the season or whatever, right? It will create a big hole in the slot, especially who does the most damage from the slot because you can't just count on Kelsey. Now you got Jared Wiley, who you can have like they're both of the same clone of each other. But
Hmm.
anyway, with a guy like Winfro, you got Hollywood, you got Worthy. They're both are best suited on the outside as those deep threats, especially with their speed. But then that would help one Hunter Winfro fill that void left by Rashee in the slot. And
Okay.
especially just in case if Kadarius Toney doesn't, pick it up. But I still think Kadarius could have a breakout season because he's in the contract year. But I really think that Hunter Winfro is that one guy. And plus, he has a chance of beating the Raiders twice a year, especially with the opportunity to win a ring. I mean, he was a guy who was from a walk on guy at Clemson to being a national championship hero when he played with Deshaun Watson. So
Hmm.
that's a guy that I still like. I like his mentality, and I remember being at Arrowhead when I worked with the Chiefs, and I was there in person seeing him against Charvarius Ward. Charvarius Ward is one of the best corners in the game, but one of his biggest weaknesses that's out there is in the red zone. You go up against Charvarius Ward in the red zone, you have a great chance of beating him. And Hunter Renfro got him on a fake move and faked him out to the left, and he went to the right and caught that 4-yard touchdown in the end zone. So that's the type of player that I like the Chiefs to get. He's a very good route runner, kind of like that Antonio
Yeah.
Brown like ability. So I feel like that's what the Chiefs need, a pure route runner. like that contested catch guy. Whether no matter what size he is, 5'10", 6'5", like Calvin Johnson, Megatron is one of my favorite receivers of all time. But that's the type of guy that I'm looking for. So.
I think it's a good point to bring up that Kansas City needs to look for a replacement, not just a body, but a replacement for the skill set that what Rice brought. You know, the big thing that Rice brought to the offense was the slot guy. Kansas City had, you know, a middle of the field guy in Kelsey, and at least hypothetically, they had a deep threat with MVS. But what they were really missing out when Juju left was that guy that can play the slot, can run some of those crossover routes, can do some of that stuff is what Kansas City was missing. And Rice was able to run those routes. So out of the guys available that I listed, Hunter Renfrow is sort of that perfect fit to run Kansas City's spot. I mean, I've talked about bringing in Renfrow before the draft. So, I mean, I'm not going to back down. I'm absolutely not going to back down from it now. Sidebar, Allen Robinson has made $95 million in his career. Just throwing that out there. I didn't know. I was surprised when I saw that number. But Allen Robinson, kind of similar in the sense that he can play a lot of that slot, those slot routes. That's what he's done for a few different teams now. I know that, like when he was in Chicago, right? That was his. He played outside and inside when he was with, I believe Matt Nagy was his head coach at that time. So, you know, sort of assist, like he at least has some sort of an idea of what the Andy Reid tree offense would look like. McCole Hardman, I could see that him coming back in just because Kansas City likes to sort of go back to the McCole Hardman way. If you really do feel like you need just a body in your wide receiver room, I could see Kansas City going back to McCole Hardman. It's going to be an extremely cheap deal. Michael Thomas is interesting. He can play. He does play the slot. He can play over the middle of the field. For him, it's just injury is a big part of Michael Thomas. I can't tell you the last time he has played in a full year or even a majority of a season. I don't know what. 2019 was the last year he played 16 games. 2020 he played 7 games. 2022 he played 3 games. 2023 he played in 10 games. So this is a guy that has not been healthy for a very long time. Now maybe, you know, he played 10 games last year, so maybe this is sort of you can start to see the turnaround for his career. If Kansas City were to get Michael Thomas on this team, it would be a steal if he's anything like that he has been in the past, because Michael Thomas is a dominant receiver. But, you know, you are bargaining with that, right? You're saying that he may not make it the entire season. But maybe the justification behind that is, well, you don't need him to make a full season because you're just looking to replace Rashee Rice for the start of the year. So if Michael Thomas only plays in 8 games, that's perfect. We don't need him to play any more games than that. So those are sort of your options are definitely limited, right? Because we're post-draft. Everybody has made moves, right? Tyler Boyd is not on the market anymore because he was signed by the Tennessee Titans for a nothing deal. Otherwise, that would have been a perfect fit for here in Kansas City. If Kansas City would have pulled the trigger on that, you know, well, I guess literally yesterday was their last chance to pull the trigger on that. So, you know, if Kansas City would have done that after the first incident, then we definitely wouldn't be sitting here having these conversations now, because it just seems like Kansas City is being put in a position to where they need to make a move. And that's not necessarily a spot where we feel like Kansas City has been put in over the last few years since Brett Veach has taken over as the general manager role. Usually by this time, post-draft, we feel pretty good about every spot. Maybe we question whether or not that the guys that they have on the roster are able to do the job. Right, last year when Donovan Smith had taken over the tackle spot, we were really questioning, is that really something that he can do? Right, we had a lot of questions about it, but we knew that the room was filled. Now the question becomes, is the room even going to be filled by the time the season starts?
Right. And I would say this, I'm looking at like Pro Football Reference. So, like, when you do like the their similar years, like let's say the comparison between Michael Thomas and Hunter Renfrow. So, I see that Michael Thomas, let's say he plays 9 games based off of what he can give us, because that's the average that he would average if he could stay healthy throughout that full 17-game schedule. That's half of the season. He could still give us like 600 yards receiving, almost close to 700 yards, probably 3 touchdowns. That's close to like what we got from Juju Smith-Schuster in 2022 when he played for that 1 year. And that's an example that I could see Thomas bringing to the Chiefs. Now, when you look at Hunter Renfrow, I think he'll score more touchdowns even with less stats. But at the same time, Hunter Renfrow to me would be what we was expecting from Richie James last season, because he
Yes.
came off of that 2022 season with Daniel Jones, but he wasn't able to show that same replicate that this past season. But we still got another ring with him though. So I really think that's what you see from both of those players, and it's just up to the Chiefs of what they want to do with that veteran presence. But I also think they might actually trust their guys on who they got right now in that room, and I think it all goes down to what MV Pat says. Like, does he really trust those guys, or does he want to say, go out and give me a veteran? Him and Big Red make that final decision when Beach presents those players to him. So that's one of those things that you just got to take into consideration. So,
All right, let me ask you guys this question then. Does or should Kansas City be confident in looking at the other guys on the depth chart, feeling good about a Sky Moore or a Kadarius Toney filling the role that Rashee Rice will not be able to be in?
Say that one more time.
Do you think that the Chiefs should feel confident in Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore taking over the role that Rashee Rice, won't be able to fill in if
No.
he gets suspended?
no.
As much as I like to, Sky Moore has not proven it really, and Kadarius Toney, last year really hurt. So they need to both step up, especially Toney, if he wants to have a future in the league, because can't catch anything. Ball goes right through his hands. It just does not work. I think he can still work with his team, but last year just was not a good year. So hope this is a turnaround year, because having him at fully ready to go in this offense is going to be deadly.
Man, I wouldn't give it too hard on Tony, man. I mean, I understand
Well,
those
that's what I
problems.
think last year. I think he can improve upon.
Like, I think he's gonna break out this year for real, because I mean, like the late great Therese Peller always says, the contract year stays undefeated. I really think that you just guys remember this. When he's out there on the field, he's really talented, man. I mean, one of the things you just gotta take into consideration, man. Like, to me, I think he's best wide receiver 3-4, great at just running the goal, the post, the curls, the digs, the crossers, and those drags, and just continue to rotating him will preserve his energy and his play speed, just like what you saw in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I think just like this, just go back and watch that 2020 Florida tape. Most of his damage came from the slot. Where did Jeremy Maclin, when he played with the Chiefs the first year, did most of his damage? Most of his touchdowns, his 8 touchdowns in 2015, I'm talking about Jeremy Maclin, came from the slot. 6 of them he scored from the slot. I feel like if you just give Kadarius an opportunity, and I think he's working with Mahomes, and I feel like them working together, they're working on those errors that he committed from last season. And when you're in a contract year, you're going to prove yourself. I wouldn't trust Sky Moore, though, but then you still have Justin Watson, who still proved himself. But I think Justin Watson, he just need to clean up those mental errors when he drops the ball, because when he's in position to make the play, he makes the play. And I just look back at them Viking games and even the game against the Eagles, he really balled out, especially when MVS wasn't stepping up. And Watson was, you could say, the second or third best wide receiver on the team last year. Actually, you could say second best behind Rashee Rice, because we all know Travis is a real wide receiver one, but you gotta remember he's a tight end, but he's more of a wide receiver than a tight end. Now you add that with Wiley, so I really think that Brown and Worthy will complement each other, because when you look at Worthy, and I think Brad Henson, our guy, put out a video on Twitter where everybody was talking about his physicality, but he showed a video that is all up here. He trucked the guy into the end zone with his 165 build, and it doesn't bother me one bit. So when I watch this tape, I see 2 players in mind. Of course, I see Deshaun Jackson. He talked about Deshaun Jackson as the person that is like one of his major influences in his playing style. But I think he can have an impact just like D-Jax. but also
Mhm.
Tyler Lockett, his rookie year when he played with the Seahawks. He was like a game changer for them, offense and special teams, catching the ball from Russell Wilson and also returning kickoffs for touchdowns or punts for touchdowns. And I really think that Worthy could have that impact. And
Mhm.
that's one of those things that they're going to play off of each other. I think the Chiefs are going to mix it up because yes, teams are going to be expecting some things. Like Jared Wiley, for example, he's 6'6", 250, and
Mhm.
he's like a Kelsey clone. I think you're going to like have them part of the plan. Like for example, Wiley is going to be deep along with Worthy and Brown, or let's say Watson, because Watson still is a very good deep threat and a really good route runner. They're going to have two safeties down deep in the back end so they make sure nobody tries to score an 80-yard bomb from Mahomes. But that creates a void over the middle where Kelsey or whoever, especially Kadarius Toney, if he catches the ball, or Xavier Worthy with his 4.21 speed, man, we're gonna be feasting. And don't forget Lewis Reese Zammit, who you got, especially his rugby style. Can't wait to see that too. So
Oh,
Andy,
Philip.
I'm sorry, man, but listen, Andy Reid,
Oh,
Oh,
you're gonna make me the party pooper. Stop. Stop
don't,
it.
that's okay. Philly said
Stop.
he gave you
don't
five. I got
Oh
it.
man. I Kadarius Toney is not giving you significant play in the 2024-2025 season. Anything Kadarius Toney gives you moving forward is just sprinkles on top of your ice cream. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of sprinkles. Okay?
Boo.
Kadarius Toney is not giving you anything significant in this offense.
I'm not saying
Hear
he's
me
gonna be
now,
a
quote
thousand
me
yard
later. It's
receiver.
just not happening. Maybe Kadarius Toney can give you something in the return game, and that's all good and well. I'll leave
Yeah,
him open for that.
you don't
Copy
think
and
he'll be
paste what
like
I
a
just
400
said
yard
about the
receiver?
rugby player. He is
Well,
not.
Quentin, I'm going to tell you this. Last year, you were talking bad about Rashee Rice, and Rashee Rice did his thing. So you can keep
Don't
Somebody
talking
put
said
words
he
in
bad.
my
would be
mouth.
over at least 900 yard
My
receiver.
whole point on Rashee Rice was just I didn't think the opportunities were going to be there because I thought the wide receiver room was better than what it turned out to be. Nothing I said about Rashee Rice was about his talent and what he was capable of doing on the football field. My entire point was the and this does tie back to Worthy. My entire point was simply that the Chiefs offense and Andy Reid offense is so hard and is so different compared to college offenses is that there have only been two wide receivers in the history of an Andy Reid offense that have come out and excelled in year one. And it's Jeremy Maclin and Deshaun Jackson. And
Mhm.
only Deshaun Jackson has had over 1,000 yards because one of the two have only had, the other one was right below 1,000 yards. And
Okay.
if you look at the teams Andy Reid was coaching those years, because they went back to back, the teams Andy Reid was coaching, there was no talent around those teams. And so they had to start in those offenses because there was nobody else to catch the damn ball. So my whole point with Rashee Rice last year was there's not going to be the opportunity. My point this year is very similar in that I'm not sure that Xavier Worthy is going to have a ton of opportunities because Hollywood Brown is a very similar skill set to what you drafted Xavier Worthy for. So I'm not sure that the opportunities are going to be there for Worthy to have this blowout season that everybody wants him to have.
There
Sorry,
you
heard
go.
it here first. Quote me later. If it turns out that Worthy comes out and it's week 8 and he has a buck 50 with 2 touchdowns and then that explodes him out to where, all of a sudden he becomes the third wide receiver in like 25 years of existing evidence, then I'll eat my words later. But my whole point is nothing to do with skill set. It's simply opportunities because it takes two people in order to receive a ball. You have to be on the field and you have to have the guy throw you the thing. And if you're not on the field because you're a rookie, then it's really hard to go out and produce on the field.
Quentin, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why are you the way you are?
I'm
Why?
I mean
You're
it's
killing
just
me, man. You're killing me.
I keep everybody else is here to talk and have fun, and I'm here to just be the adult that walks into the room and just kicks your Legos over. Okay, somebody's gotta show you real life.
All right, fine. If that's how you
Yeah,
want to do it.
I'm here for it, man. I mean, I got nothing against it, man. But I gotta argue my point back to this. I
Tell
mean,
him,
I'm
Philip.
watching a lot of X-Men '97. You know, Professor X going against Magneto, Quentin, and hey, man, they would say Magneto is right, but who knows, man? With Professor X coming back with this new episode. But anyway, let me just say it like this. I'm not saying Kadarius Toney is going to break out to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but I feel like just like you said, opportunities, like you said with Worthy, they might not be those type of players. But Rashee took advantage of the opportunity because, like, I did this example. I did this formula where I took the same amount of snaps that Juju played in 2022, which was like
Mhm.
700 snaps, right? I took the total number that Rashee Rice played at SMU. This is Pro Football Focus, by the way, folks. You look at the total offensive snaps he's played in the regular season, and then you take the numbers from like the receptions, the yards, the touchdowns, and I did a formula where okay, I took the total catches he had divided by the total snaps at SMU, and then
Mhm.
I would take that number and then I'll multiply by the total number that Juju put up the previous year. And that's when I came up like with the similar numbers. And I told you, hey man, that's why I think he's going to put up 60 catches to 900 yards, 800 to 900. I might be wrong, but I think he will score more touchdowns than Juju did that previous year,
Mhm.
2022. Three. He scored, I believe, yeah, 8 touchdowns and I mean, well, 4 more touchdowns, 5 more touchdowns, but that was the point where I was making. Like I knew he had that ability, but we didn't know about these character concerns and all this other stuff. But at the same time, we were just seeing the talent and what the Chiefs were missing. So what I'm saying is now the Chiefs finally had back to like replicating what they did in 2018, 2019, and 2020 with the speed that they got with Tyreek, and you had Sammy and you had McCole. I'm not saying they're gonna be the same, but you know what you did the last time and what you got this time. Like you could manipulate the defense in any ways, like threaten to go over the top, and then also leaving the void over the middle. And don't forget, you got Pacheco. Like, let's say you do bring back McCole, you would have Pacheco, you would have McCole, you would have Brown, you would have freaking Worthy. We would have like a freaking Olympic relay team, and I know Tyree would be looking at over there like, yeah, we got the fast guys over here in Miami, but I know he'll be over there jealous. But that's just my point that I'm saying that it will still work. I believe in Andy Reid and Brett Veach and what they could do.
Right, and I'm there with you for most of that. I'm just there's a point where you have to you have to contend that whether or not the opportunities are going to be there, and even if Rice gets suspended for a good chunk of the year, I just don't think that using Worthy in the slot does not maximize his value as
No,
a receiver, and so with him you're not going to get a ton of opportunities when Hollywood Brown is on the field. And I just think that the Xavier Worthy pick, yes, you are obviously he's going to get playing time, this year. But I really do think that that pick was looking at the future and saying, man, Hollywood Brown is on a 1-year deal. We need to continue to have a deep threat down the field. We saw what this offense looked like when we didn't have a real deep threat because MVS was a letdown. So
Mhm.
let's make sure that we have this extremely talented guy who, despite his smaller frame, does not play like it and literally had the fastest time in combine history. So let's
Did.
get him. That's a draft pick a little bit for now, mostly for the future. Let's develop him and move forward. I think that Kansas City needs to find a slot guy, and I just don't think that they have that talent on the roster. Unless Sky Moore really figures his shit out this offseason. Sky
yeah,
Moore can work out in the slot. He has the frame for it. He has the skill set for it. Kadarius Toney no. I am out on the Kadarius Toney train. I sold my stock in the Kadarius Toney. Uh, I sold my Kadarius Toney stock. I literally want to bet with my friend because I said that Sky Moore would have more fantasy points than Kadarius Toney, and I won a 20-pack of Miller Lite because of it. So I I have been out on Kadarius Toney for months now, and I am not even a believer in Sky Moore. That just really shows you how little I believe in Kadarius Toney moving forward.
Mhm.
I, on the other hand, with Sky Moore, you know, I allow you to have a rough rookie year, especially I mean it's the NFL, right? The speed is so much faster. You're going to hit the rookie wall because the season is longer, right? There are so many reasons to look at even the most talented rookies in the NFL and recognize that they're going to have bad games, bad weeks, bad whatever, right? They're going to struggle at every
Mhm.
position because everybody who was the best player in college football now plays in the NFL.
Yep.
When
Yeah.
you start to get to year 2 or 3, you need to see something, right? And I just don't think that Sky Moore has really shown that something. He has not been the same player in the NFL. He has not shown that same skill set in the NFL that he had back in college. It just hasn't been there. And at a certain point, you have to look at a player and realize that's who he is. That's just what the player is. Sometimes really talented, actually, a lot of times, really talented athletes in college go to professional leagues and they just are not that dude. And I'm just
Mhm.
not sure that Sky Moore is that dude, right? We've seen very talented players come into Kansas City's offense with Patrick Mahomes, and they just aren't that guy. And that's fine. Even the best general managers and the best coaches and all of football have failures on their roster, right? That's what makes these conversations so nuanced and great, and it's why it's fun because you do have those screw ups. If every player that got drafted by the Chiefs or drafted by whoever, whatever your favorite team is, came in and succeeded, then these conversations would not be interesting or entertaining by any means because the conversation would be like, hey, that guy got drafted. He's pretty good. And then we'd all move on. It's not like that. You have failures. And Sky Moore up to this point has been a failure. He caught a ball in the Super Bowl as his first catch, and that's it. Kadarius Toney had one punt return and had one knocked up pass into the hands of another of a defensive player to get returned for a touchdown. That is Kadarius Toney time here in Kansas City. Those two plays. One was great for the other team. Like at a certain point, we just have to accept who these players are and try and find a way around them on the roster. Just because they're on the roster doesn't mean squat to me. And then in terms of the rugby guy, basically copy and paste everything I said about Rashee Rice last year. I am in no way questioning the athleticism, the worth ethic, anything like that. The guy is coming from a different sport. Yeah, I know the ball is shaped similarly. I know it's a contact sport. All of that I get. And I know that he watched football growing up, so he gets the gist of the sport. But putting on pads and playing football is different than watching it on TV, and it is different than rugby because I've seen a rugby ball. My friend played rugby. I they're two different sports. The rules are different, right? They look similar, but they're not the same. So it's going to take him a while to get up to the speed of the game, and it's going to take him a while to be able to, you know, be any sort of effectiveness on the offense. If that really is the end goal, can he be on special teams and be like a gunner on punt? Maybe. Can he receive punts? I don't know. Kansas City receivers seem to struggle with receiving punts. So I'm not sure he's able to do that. My point is that we need to take a look at the roster as a whole, and we need to realize where the holes are, and maybe this is why Kansas City needs to go outside the roster and sign somebody like a Hunter Renfro, or maybe they go out and trade for somebody. But I'm generally not a fan of trading for people because I love my draft picks. I love hoarding my draft picks, but Kansas City needs to do something else because I don't trust Sky Moore and I don't trust Kadarius Toney and I don't trust a guy who 6 months ago was playing a completely different sport.
I get it. I mean, but
It's
you
fair.
got that's fair. Fair assessment. But we'll see what Andy Reid tries to do here. But trust the process and next man up mentality. I mean, if the Seahawks could play with a majority of undrafted pass catchers and help them have the chance of almost beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl, thanks a lot, Russell Wilson. Could have handed off to Marshawn Lynch. I mean, we would have been talking about a great team who did with less, kind of like with Moneyball, with Billy Bean and with Oakland Athletics. So I really think everything is going to work out very well. But I'm not going to leave out the idea of them exploring a veteran receiver. I mean, they still got a chance. They could still explore one in a trade, especially one of the guys who are going to be free agents next year, especially for like a 1-year rental. I mean, the options are out there still. So
I don't think we have any time to do any of our other planned segments tonight. So, Caleb, do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
All I'm gonna say is expect some fireworks to happen this off season because in a couple months it's about to get real. We'll be here before we know it. So be ready, guys.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you are new to the show, we do this every Tuesday and Thursday. Subscribe and hit the notification button so you're able to watch the show. We go live at 8 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday, and we will probably have some more news on the Rashee Rice situation coming up on Thursday. So you might want to, get that notification up so you get updated on all your Chief stuff. With that being said, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys on Tuesday. That's it.